In this part, we will talk about command line pipes or pipelines in Linux. Before this, let me just introduce very quickly some very simple commands that we will use later as examples. The first one is called head. So if I just specify some file as an argument to this command. So for example, I have this file. This is just a text file. And I give it as an argument to this command head. This will allow us to show by default only the 10 first lines from this file. So the head of the file is just the very few first lines from the file. Okay, so this does not display the whole file, it just takes the 10 first lines from the file. And if we want to specify how many lines we want to display, then there is an option called -n. And if we specify after that the number of lines we want to display, for example, let's say 4, then it will display just the 4 first lines from the file. Okay. And by the way, instead of writing -n4, we can also directly write -4 like this here. So this will be exactly the same as this one. Okay. And there is also another equivalent command. It's called tail, right? And tail allows us to show the last lines from the file. So head is used to get the first lines, and tail is used to get the last lines from the file. So for example, if we specify that we want, let's say, the 4 last lines from the same file as previously, so this gives us the last 4 lines from this file. So here there is an empty line which is also counted. So 1, 2, 3, 4. And by default, if we don't specify any option here, then it will just display the last 10 lines from the file. Okay. Now, what if we want to display the n first lines from something else, not this file, but from, for example, from the result of another command, right? So for example, we have a command that gives us a lot of lines as a result. And from that result, we want to display the n first lines, right? In this case, we need to combine commands. And to do this, we use something called pipes. So there is a special character, this one, right? This is the pipe character, right? And it is used between two commands to send the output of the first command as an input to the second command. So maybe it's easier to check this with an example. So let me take one command. So let's say ls/etc, right? And let's say ls-l/etc. So just this allows us to display all the content of the /etc directory, right? But what if we want only to take, let's say, the 4 first lines from this result? Then we can combine this with the command tail that we saw previously. Let's say had the 4 first lines from this result. So here we have two commands, right? We have the ls command and we have the head command, and they are combined based on this pipe, right? So what happens here is that the output of this command will be given to this one, right? So head will just take the 4 lines, the 4 first lines from the result of this command. So if we do this, right? So so ls-l etc gave us some result, and this result was sent to head, and head filtered this result and gave us just the 4 first lines, right? So basically the output of this command is sent as an input to this command. Okay. We can do the same thing with, for example, tail here if we want to get let's say, for example, the three last lines from the result of ls, right? So we can do this. So notice here that we didn't give any argument, like for example a file, to the head command, because it will not operate on a file. It will operate on the result of the previous command. Okay, same thing here. And of course, we can combine with pipes more than two commands. So in this example, we have just two commands, but we can have a pipeline with many more commands, right? As much as we want. So you can have, for example, three or more commands combined. Let's say command one, and then you send its result to another command. Let's say command two, and then you send this result again to another command. Let's say result command three, and so on. You can continue to do this. But the order in which you combine your commands is important, right? So if you first write command 1 and then command 2 and then command 3, this is not the same as command 1 and then, for example, command 3 and then command 2. This is important. The order in which you combine the commands in a pipeline is very important. So to show this, let me take an example. So first, let's see. So we have a file called notes.txt. So let's check the content of this file. So this file contains just some lines, right? Some text. Okay, so this is a line, this is another one, this is another line, and this is another line. So let me introduce a new command, which is a very simple command. It's called nl. And this command just allows you to number the lines, right? Number the lines of a file. So if I just use it to give a number to each of those lines, I want to number them, right? So we just do this using nl and then the name of the file that we want to number. So this will give us just the same content of the file, but at each line there is a number. Okay, so it is numbered. So let me now use this command as part of a pipeline. Okay, so you know what this command does. Let me use it as a part um, of a more complex pipeline. So let's take this example. Let's say that I have a command ls minus l, and then let's see, let's take this directory. I want to list the content of this directory. This directory contains a lot of stuff, right? But now let me take this command, the output of this command, and give it to the nl command, right? So what will happen is that this, so the output of this command will be given to nl, and nl will just number each of those lines, right? So let's see this. Yes, that's what we expect, right? So the output of this was given to the nl command, and nl just added the number before each line, right? Now let me continue. Let me combine this with something else, right? So we have all this, right, as part of this. We give it to another command, and let's say that this is tail, tail minus, let's take 3 or 4, right? So we just took the 4 last lines from the result of this, right? So from all this, we are just taking now the last 4 lines, right? So we take this, okay? Now, as I said, the order in which I combine those 3 commands is important. So let me change the order and see what happens. So let's, for example, just swap the order of those 2 commands, tail and nl, and see what happens. So if I just write first, I take the 4 last lines and then I give it to nl. So here what we are doing is first we list the content of this directory, and then this output we give it to tail. Tail will take the last 4 lines from this result, and then those 4 lines will be given to nl, and nl will number them, right? So if we execute this, the result will be this one, and it's different from this one, right? So here the number starts from 1, 2, 3, 4, but here it's 11, 12, 13, 14. And as you can see, the difference is that here we first list the content of this directory, and then we number the lines as we saw here, right? We number them, and then we pick, we give this to tail, and it picks the last 4 lines, right? So we get those lines. But here, we first list the contents of this directory, and then we pick the last 4 lines from this result, right? So we pick first those 4 lines, and then we give this to NL in order to number them, right? So it will be, they will be numbered from 1, right? Okay, so the order in which you combine comments is very important. And of course, you can use or you can combine any kind of commands using pipes, not just ls with tail with nl, but any kind of commands can be combined. So for example, let's take another example. You know, there is a command called du. It stands for directory usage, right? It estimates the file space usage, right? So directory usage. So if I just type du, it just displays display the for each directory the space usage basically, right? So there is another command called sort, and this one allows us to sort lines of text, right? As you can guess. So if I combine du with the command sort, I give it -n in order to sort in a numerical order. So if I do this, the result of du will be given to the sort command, and sort will sort it, right, from the smallest to the largest number. So if I do this, you see that those lines has been sorted. The result of du has been sorted, right? And I can go again and combine this with, um, let's say tail minus n5. So we want to take um, the last 5 lines from this result. So what we are trying to do is basically get the 5 directories which have the largest size. Okay, so we first sort the result of du based on the size, and then we pick the last 5 lines, so those that have the largest size. Okay, so we get those. And if we want, for example, to get those that have the smallest size, then we can use head here, right? So you can combine any kind of commands using pipes. Another typical example to use is, for example, when we want to combine the result of some command with a command called less, right? Or another one called more. And these commands are just some kind of pager. Um, yeah, okay. So basically, for example, if I do ls -l and then /etc, I want to list the content of this directory, then this contains a lot of stuff, right? So everything will be displayed here at once, right? So this is a very long list, right? So if we don't want all this to be displayed at once, we want to browse those results like page by page or line by line, then we can give this result, the result of the ls command, we give it to a command called less, for example, right? So what happens is that now not everything has been displayed at once. So we have those lines displayed, and then I can go down by pressing enter, the enter key. I can search in this result. If, for example, you type here slash, then you will be able to perform a search. So let me, for example, search for bash, right? then it will highlight all the occurrences of this keyword that I'm searching for, right? And you can press N to go to the next occurrence, and capital N to go to the previous occurrence, and so on. Yeah, so if I search for cron, it will find it, right? And you can press the space key on your keyboard to go down one page, right? Like this. And if you want to quit, you can press Q. There is another pager called more, right? Which has basically similar features. Another command which is useful to use with pipes is maybe WC command. So let's check the man page of this command, WC. So WC stands for word counter. It allows us to count how many words and lines and characters there are in some text, right? So for example, if I use WC and then I give it as an argument this file, let's first check what is the content of this file. So this file just contains some lines of text, right? 4 lines. So if you do WC and then notes.txt, this will just display for you that there's some statistics about the file, right? So it is telling you that the file contains 4 lines, 15 words, and 77 characters, right? And there are some options that you can use. So for example, if we use the -L option, this will allow us to display just the number of lines in this file, right? So in this case, it's just 4 lines. And if we use the, let's say, the -W, it will display the number of words in this file, right? And if we use -C, it will display the number of characters in this text, okay? So it is useful to use such a command as part of your pipeline. So for example, if I want, for example, to count how many lines there is in the result of this command, right? So let's say, so the result of this command is several files and directories, right? If I want to count them, right, then I can just combine this with WC command with the option -L in order to count how many lines there is in this result, right? So here we first execute this command. So we list all the content of the directory /etc. And then this result is sent to the WC command with this option. And this will count how many lines we have there, right? So if I execute this, it will just display that there are 265 lines in this result, okay? So if we just display, for example, this, and we display the, let's say, the first lines, let's say the 5 first lines from this result. So we see that there is this directory, this directory, this one, and the very first line just summarizes the total number of results, of files and directories we have, right? Total number of items there is in this directory /etc. But I guess there is an option if you want to ignore this header here. So if we check the man of ls and search for header, okay, it seems that there is no such option. That's fine. But if we want to count how many items, meaning files and directories, there are in this directory in /etc, then one way to do this is just, so if we just do display ls/etc without the -L option, this will display all the items, right? Files and directories, right? So we can consider that those are words, and we just do WC -W. So we want to count the number of words in this result, right? So this will basically show us, assuming that there is no file or directory which has two words in their name, this will show us how many words or how many items there is in this directory. So for example, in my home directory, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 items. So if I use my previous command on my home directory, so just ls or ls, and I specify explicitly my home directory, then it will just display 6, right? So we have 6 items here. And the last command that I wanted to show you, which is very useful to use with pipelines, is called grep. So let's first see what this command does. So if I just say grep bash and then I specify some file name. So for example, let's take this one. So first, let me just show you the content of this file. So this is just a file which contains many lines, right? But if I do this, if I do grep, and then I'm looking only for the lines which contain this keyword bash within this file. So here I'm grepping or getting only the lines which contains this keyword. It can be any keyword that you want to specify here within this file. So this will show me only the lines that contains this keyword, right? So I can specify any keyword here. So if I'm looking for root, it will just show me the lines containing root, okay? Now, what if I want to grep some keyword from the result of another command, not from a file? So I mean, from the result of another command, I want to filter this result and just get the lines which contain some specific keyword. Then I can use pipes with grep in order to do this. So for example, if I check the result of ls on my home directory, I get all those files and directories. Now, if I want to filter this result, so I have ls-l and I want to filter this and grep only the file names which contains .txt in their name, right? Then I can give the result of ls-l to the grep command, and grep will filter those lines and just get the lines which contains this keyword, right? So we get this, only the lines or the file names which contains .txt. And we can also do more advanced stuff. So for example, if we want only to select the lines which does not contain .txt, then we can also do this. So if we check the man pages of grep and search for an option called -v, so we'll see that this allows us to invert the match. So it inverts the sense of matching to select the non-matching lines. So if I do the same command as previously, this one, but I want to select the lines which does not, or the file names which does not contain .txt in their name, then I can use this -v option. So this will give me only the lines which does not contain .txt. And you can do much more advanced stuff with grep, but it's a very useful command, especially when used or when combined with other commands using pipes.